I'll do it, but I'll have to hire people. That's the sentence. Maybe not those exact words, but I'm sure you've got a version of it running somewhere in the back of your head. You would start the thing or take what you already have and push it to bigger limits. Except you can't do it all alone. The selling, the building, the numbers, the marketing that actually works. So you wait. You wait for the budget to make a hire or build a team. You wait for the right co founder to turn up. But what if you don't need the hire? You don't need the co founder or the team that you thought you absolutely have to have. Because somewhere in the last few years, things changed. One person running a serious business stopped being a fantasy and started showing up in official numbers. The proof turned up in the least likely place on earth that you can imagine, a government statistics office that got this so wrong it had to rewrite its own rules. This is the era where ideas come true. The distance between I've got an idea and this thing is live used to be a hiring plan and a year of runway. Now, for a lot of ideas, it's you, the tools, and the decision to start. So, today we're talking about the rise of the solopreneurs, the one person company, and why doing it on your own stopped being the thing that holds you back. This one's built on real numbers, and they are juicy ones. So, let's get into it. First, a quick stop at the least glamorous office in America, the US Census Bureau. For years, they counted businesses on one simple rule. If you earned above a certain cutoff for your industry, you must have employees. Because come on, no one makes that kind of money on their own, right? So then picture this. One person business files its taxes, says plainly it's just me, and the bureau goes, no, that can't be right, and files it under has employees anyway. The system could not imagine you earning that much alone. Cute, right? Then the numbers starting telling a different story. Solo operators were pulling in serious money and not hiring. Not yet, not soon, not at all. So in 2022, the Bureau did a thing that statistic offices almost never do. It admitted that the rule was wrong, raised the cutoff, and counted again. And the number of high earning solo businesses did not just go up a little bit politely. No, they just jump off the page. That's the whole episode in one boring governmental anecdote. The scorekeeper had to change the scoreboard because people like us stopped playing the way rules assumed we would. So, quick honest check before we go any further, because I know how this sounds. Most of this data comes from Stripe's report, one of the biggest fintech companies, and it's spread when Stripe's CEO shared with a few hundred thousand people on X. Stripe watches a huge slice of the internet's money move around, so it has a real window into this. But it also sells the tools these businesses run on, so keep that in mind. A Stripe report saying business is booming is a bit like a shovel seller swearing there's gold in them hills. Worth keeping an eye on that. So I checked who else actually sees this, and it seems that everyone with access to this type of data does. The Census Bureau's own figures show a new business application running above 5 million a year, well clear pre-pandemic levels. And the filings that plan to hire people stayed flat, while everything else surged. So the growth is specifically in the kind of business that never really intended to build around the team. The same climb shows up overseas, with registration up sharply in Australia, Finland, and France. And no, this is not leftover noise from 2020 kind of fraud spike when pandemic loan scheme gave people a reason to register as a business whether or not they had one. Those schemes ended in 2021. The money now is real, and it lands fastest in the places and states where serious founder register. One stat sealed it for me. Businesses that joined Stripe after 2023 hit $1 million dollars in revenue faster than the ones that came before them. Empty shells take longer to show some money, if ever. Something real is going on. And it's not just more of them, they're also getting bigger. This is the number that I really want you to clock. Back in 2023, about 4 million Americans made their main living as solo operators, each pulling in over $100,000 a year on their own, no team. That's roughly double than early 2010s. But park that crowd just for a little while, because the wild part is higher up. More than twice as many solopreneurs cleared $1 million in 2025 compared to 2023. The number crossing 5 to 10 millions almost tripled. And the share hitting those levels doubled in 2 years. So this isn't a flood of hopeful with a couple of lucky winners here and there. No, 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 no. The newer solo businesses aren't just more numerous, they're better and they're cashing in more than ever. And the ceiling keeps climbing. Sam Altman says his group chat of tech CEOs has a running bet on the first year someone builds a one-person billion-dollar company. Unimaginable without AI, and now chances are it will happen. A telehealth company called Medvi reportedly pulled $401 million in its first full year, built by one founder who started with about $20,000 and used AI to write the code, make the ads, and answer the customer. Total headcount today, him and his brother. Fair warning though, the company is now facing real scrutiny and selling a weight loss medicine online, and that's its own can of worms. So hold on to this a bit loosely. But even with every caveat attached, two people and $1 billion run rate in a sentence, nobody could have said that in 3 years. So, what changed? I'm sure you already can take a guess. It's AI, but not the way the headlines mean it or they want for you to think about. The old reason you needed a few people wasn't just for fun back in the days. It's about no single human is good at everything. To size a market, build a thing, price it, market it, close the sale. Miss one of those and your business kind of stalls. So you hired the gap that you needed to fill. And that's still somewhat true today. But AI changes that. Not by beating a brilliant specialist, because that's not going to happen, but by being good enough at all the gaps at once. On tap at 2 in the morning for the price of a subscription. You stop hiring the skill and start renting it by the prompt. But this is where it also gets a bit interesting. If you can now build almost anything on your own, so can everyone else. And when everyone can build, building stops being the advantage. And cheap to make means cheap to copy. So the advantage kind of moves. It moves to three things that AI can't really hand you for a price of a subscription. First, distribution. Being found and being trusted, those are key factors in your business being a success. Take Peter Levels, the poster child for the whole movement, a real one person operation doing around $3 million a year. Everyone points at his AI products. Almost nobody mentions the actual engine behind his success. More than 500,000 followers built over 10 years before these products ever existed. Sure, AI made his building cheap, but his audience is what made it real and made it sell. Same story outside of code. Justin Welsh sells courses and a newsletter about running a one person business, and his own numbers cleared over $4 million in 2024 at margins most companies would frame and hang on the wall. No real employees, just one part time assistant. The engine again is his audience that he spent years building, and they're not the exceptions. Roughly 4 in 10 seven-figure solo businesses run on the same fuel. A crowd that was there before the product even existed. The second part is the idea itself. Sam Altman has a line for it. He calls it the revenge of the idea guys. Historically, the person with the clever concept and no team watched from the sidelines. Not anymore. When execution is something you can just summon up, the rare thing becomes the idea, knowing what to build, who is it for, and what to leave out. There's data on this now. The venture firm A16Z, who also has a horse in this race, so keep that in mind, rounded up a study of 515 fast growing startups. The winners didn't bolt AI on top of their old processes. They rebuilt all their processes around what AI could do. Those companies found more uses for it, made more money, and burned around 40% less cash. The bottleneck was never the tool. Everyone has the tools. It was working out where to use them and how to use them. Third is running the system. The solopreneurs who win aren't doing every job by hand. They're a one person directing a set of AI tools and automations, keeping the strategy, the quality bar, and the customer relationships for themselves. And the trick isn't owning five clever agents. It's giving them shared context, one source of truth they all pull from. So the whole setup gets smarter over time instead of starting from scratch every morning. The skill isn't using AI anymore, it's knowing how to orchestrate it and how to build a second brain for them. By the way, side note, if you want to start building a second brain and not sure how, check out our previous episode where we build the first simple version of it. Now, back to the part that the headlines kind of skip. So, we have the big numbers, right? But those big numbers that show up everywhere right now are sitting on a top of a very lopsided pile. The median solo operators make is around $3,000 a month. The $1 million stories are real, but they're the survivors that people can see, while the ones who stalled are somewhat invisible. For plenty of people, this is a side income, not a salary they quit their job for. And solopreneur is more of a tax box in reality. It holds the consultant clearing the 300 grand from their spare bedroom and the rideshare driver in the same category. Two honest flags on the AI story, too. One, the sectors adopting AI fastest are also forming the most solo businesses. New tech tends to show up in the economy long before it shows up in the actual statistics and numbers. So, anyone selling you a certainty right now, it's kind of selling you something else too. And two, and this is the wild one, as of last year, only about a quarter of solopreneurs had even started using AI, which makes you wonder. The boom in the headlines is mostly about running a company based on AI. It's you and AI on the other side. But if you look at it, most of them are actually running without it. And the tools are just sitting there for 3 quarters who haven't really picked them up yet. Which also begs the question, if solopreneurship is really due to AI, like the headlines make us think, or it's just the way our economy is changing, hence forcing more people to become entrepreneurial because the 9 to 5 is just not cutting it anymore. And then there's the part that no chart really shows. No sick leave, no health cover, no one to share the 2 a.m. panic with. Solo operators report more stress and more loneliness than people who run teams. The freedom is real, but so are the downsides that come with a job description. So, what does this mean for you? Maybe you're wondering. I'll tell you why it lands for me. I run this whole show across 5 platforms and a company on a set of tools you could count on one hand, leaning on Claude for most of the parts that I used to think that I needed other people. This report that we're talking about is 4 million people arriving at the exact same realization I did at once. And look at who's already here. Mauer Shlomo built an app called Base 44 as a side project, owned it entirely by himself, took no funding, and then sold it to Wix for $80 million in cash 6 months after launching. To be fair, he'd hired a handful of people by the end, but the company was still his alone that started with a few $100,000 of his own money. Fair to mention that this was not his first startup. But let's take another example. Peter Steinberger build an AI assistant on his own as a passion project, which maybe you might know as OpenClaw. Watched it become one of the fastest growing open source projects ever. And about 3 months later, OpenAI hired him to keep building it. Peter Levels runs 3 products, doing around $3 million a year with 0 employees. Different people, different products, but same pattern. One person, an idea or two, a thing that exists in the world now because they decided it should. And if you don't build software, this still holds true. The research on $1 million one person businesses is full of people selling coffee mugs, pet supplies, planners, online courses. The products change, but the patterns don't. That's the part worth saying out loud. This is the era where ideas come true, not the era where ideas get funded first, then staffed, or waits for someone to above your level to approve it. The distance between I got an idea and the thing is live used to be a hiring plan and a year of worth of runway. Now, for a lot of ideas, it's you, the tools that you're using, and the decision to start. And there's one more thing these founders share that never really makes the highlight reel. Being alone made them faster because there's no one to hand decisions off to. The solo operators are winning in this era, not because they're just alone, but they're winning because alone forced them to make a call and move forward. Which means the only thing standing between you and your idea right now, well, it's you. Okay, if you don't take anything else from this episode, just take this one. The boom is real, and it's not just Stripe's report talking about it. The Census Bureau, other countries, and the money itself all show the same climb. And it's specifically the businesses that never really plan to hire. Two, it's not just more solo businesses, it's bigger ones. The number crossing $1 million more than doubled in 2 years, and the ceiling now runs all the way up to a serious bet on the first one person billion-dollar company. Three, building stopped being the advantage. AI made making things so cheap that making it is no longer the edge or the advantage. The advantage moved to being found and trusted, knowing what to build, and running the system. Four, be honest about the odds. The median solo operator makes about $3,000 a month. The AI link is a pattern rather than the proof in the pudding, and there's no sick pay, no safety net. Go in with your eyes wide open. Five, the door is barely open. As of last year, only about a quarter of solopreneurs had even started using AI. The boom you just heard about in the headlines is mostly running without AI, which means the opening is right now for everyone to just move. All right, that's a wrap on this one. If it did something for you, do me a favor and send it to a friend who keeps saying that they're gonna start the thing if only they had the funding to hire a team or just a bigger budget. This might be the episode that tells them that they don't need either and they just should start. And I'm curious to hear from you. What's the job you were sure you couldn't do it alone? And yet here we are. I read every single comment and I reply to as many as I can. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and follow the notification bell, whether you're watching or listening, to make sure you catch all the latest episodes. We have tons of interesting subjects coming up. And if you want to keep this going past this episode, come and join us at the free community at thecasualleader.com. We've got workshop calls, OKR supports, accountability check ins, and of course, AI updates that actually matter. Until next time, keep being you authentically, lead clearly, build smarter, and remember, everything starts with you. Start casual, keep going, keep growing. See you next week. Bye.